Welcome to the 13th Annual Dallas International Film Festival. We're here with producer, film festival creator, and just super guy, Jeffrey Brown.
Right. Hello.
So let's talk about this film festival that you've created over the last few years, and in particular, how that is being showcased here at DIF this year.
Yes. So Czech That Film has been going for about 8 years. I am one of the organizers of it. The main organizers are in Prague and in LA.
That's fitting.
Yes, fitting. Yes, imagine that. In LA and in DC. And so this year, and I always organize the Texas events. And so we always do Dallas and Austin. And then we generally have another city. This year we're adding a screening in San Marcos.
Okay.
Yeah, because I live in the Texas Hill Country in Wimberley, and I office in San Marcos. And so I'm there often, and there's a cinema club there, and so we're going to do the same film that with the guest here, which is called Golden Sting, and that director is Radim Spacek. We're doing dates in Austin, Dallas, and then one in San Marcos. And so we've always it's a small series, and we refer to it actually as a festival. And we've been in Dallas, and we've worked with Studio Movie Grill in the past. And so this year, because I have a history with the festival, it has become the international sidebar for DIF, which is great for us because our goal has always been to reach more than a Czech audience. And so we're thrilled to be here. And so we screened last night the film Jan Palach, which is a Czech hero. He set himself on fire to protest the Soviet invasion in 1969. The invasion was in 68, but he set himself on fire in 69 as a protest. That was last night. Tonight is the film with director Radim Spacek, and it's called Golden Sting in English, and it's about a Czech basketball team in 1938 which learned to play basketball from American Mormons at the YMCA, and their journey to win the European Championship in 1946 against the outbreak of World War II, and later the communist coup of 1948. And then tomorrow we have the film called Napadnik, or in English, Suitor. And so we're thrilled to have those three films as the international sidebar of DIF. It's a big accomplishment for us, and hopefully will be good for the series or the festival going forward.
I know you want to open it up to all audiences and showcase the beauty of Czech film and Czech filmmakers, but can you talk a bit about the particulars of Texas and the Czech culture here in Texas? I think that is something that is important to what y'all are doing.
Yeah, so there's a big Czech community in Texas, much of which came through Galveston back in the day, and there's been different ways of immigration, but Czech is still taught at UT Austin, and there is a very significant Czech community in Dallas. Very close to us here at Walnut and Greenville, there is the Sokol. And that's always been, Sokols have been meeting places for Czech community, especially for immigrants coming over. Now they're more focused on sports, especially gymnastics, but it still serves as a meeting place for the Czech community here. And the Sokol is one of our partners in the Czech community, and then the Czech School of Dallas, which is still teaching Czech traditions to all ages, and language as well. And so a significant community here, a vibrant community. They have several cultural events, and again, the Sokol is for not just for Czechs. Hosts gymnastics classes, and it's a ballroom, and it's a community center.
As far as the political leanings of the films are obviously very important. How important is it for people to kind of start to know the history of that side of the world? I think we've always been we're the other side of the Red Army, you know what I mean? Like they have their stuff and we leave it alone. But being able to showcase the history and the turmoil that's come from the last 50, 60 years of that side of the world, how important is it to show those films and show those pioneers and those people who survived it?
Yeah, well, it's the 30-year anniversary of the 1989 Velvet Revolution. And so that's one of the hooks this year, and that's why it's a very important year. So, I think it's always good to remember history, and I guess, the East-West divide, thanks to our current political situation in the United States, is kind of alive again. The divide is getting greater than ever. Since '89, but I think that there's always a goal within these communities to open it up to younger people. I think one of the big goals of this film is to try to bring in not only younger Czechs, but just young people in general to know a little bit more about that part of the world. That said, the Czech Republic is a functioning democracy. I mean, the free market is alive and well. Entrepreneurialism is alive and well. So, there's a very good life to lead there. And but these films are historical, and I think there's just so many great stories from the past. There's a historical element to all of those that we're showing, but it also comes down to what's your personal taste. But they're good art house films from a different part of the world, and if you're an aspiring filmmaker, then it's always important to see as many films as you can. And these, the Czech films always have a certain touch to them, which make them Czech, at least in my mind. And so, I think there's something something to be learned, but also just to appreciate a good film. It's not so heavy.
The influence of sports in the community, not only gymnastics, but on a global stage, soccer has always been huge, and the Golden Sting film showcasing basketball.
Yeah.
How cool is it to see the reflection of sports in the community be a great outlet? I think for the feel of Czech pride, maybe even so.
Yeah, it's one of those things where the arts and culture is hugely represented in the Czech Republic, but so are sports. In the early 2000s, the Czech Republic probably had the best international team. They didn't win the World Cup and they didn't win the European Championship, but there was a stretch there where they were probably the best team in the world. And Czech basketball, maybe not quite as well known, definitely not, but still well regarded. I think when you think of the Czech Republic, you probably think of hockey, and you think of football or soccer.
Yeah.
So, but great traditions there and great interest and. I guess great nationalism behind it. The same way when I see the Czech team play, I lived there for 20 years. I made a lot of Czech films, but I'm always rooting for the Czechs. And the same way, any American patriotism probably comes out most when I see the Olympics or when I see American athletes. So.
Switching to your producer hat,
yes.
Let's talk about Jeff's film. And before we jump into the film itself, can we talk about the pub, the Saxon pub, the influence it has in Austin and the history behind it?
Yeah, so Nothing Stays the Same. The story of the Saxon pub is about the challenges facing musicians and club owners in Austin. So that's kind of the big picture, but it's told through the lens of the Saxon pub, which really encapsulates much of what the story is about. An iconic pub, which has been there in that location since the early 90s. It's a place that gives, let's say, musicians on the way up a chance to play. There's generally 3 or 4 bands every single night, all types of music, even though there's generally a singer-songwriter kind of Americana theme. There are all types of music there that play. And so if Austin is the live music capital of the world and iconic clubs are closing, then there's something wrong. And, Austin is just the fastest growing city in the United States. Gentrification's running wild. And it's just become an expensive place to live. And it's not specific to Austin. This is happening in other places, but other places don't consider themselves the live music capital of the world. And so the time had come for the Saxon to move along because they couldn't afford rent. And our film is basically going through that story and at the same time weaving in the musicians and the regulars and the staff, which make it a special place. And so you have to see the film, but the pub manages to play their cards right and stay in the same location.
I had a wonderful screening at Austin, an award-winning venture down at South by. Jeff, thanks for bringing it here to Dallas. I know with your connections to the film festival, but for people to see it up here, I think it's important too.
Yeah, so we premiered at South by Southwest. We were at the Paramount. We almost sold it out. We had about 1,000 people. It was a great moment. It was our hometown crowd, of course, but it was an electric atmosphere, and I hope we have the same thing today here in a couple hours. But it will resonate in Texas for sure, and a lot of the artists that are in the film. Guy Forsythe, Patrice Pike, Bob Schneider, Joe Ely. A lot of these people play Dallas-Fort Worth on a regular basis. So I think there's going to be crossover here, and there'll be great interest. But, looking forward to see how it's our first time to play out of South by. We won the Audience Award in the music doc category. So we've had a great run for the 2 times we screened it. So it's still a fresh, we're still right at the beginning of our run, and it's still fresh, but be interesting to see what the reaction is here today. But we're thrilled to be a part of DIF. I've had a lot of films at DIF. My first kind of real film won the best film back when it was AFI Dallas in 2007. So it's been a long run, and it's definitely has a special place in my heart, without being too melodramatic. But it's great to be back, and it's great to see the people around it. And I've known a lot of these people for a long time, and I consider them good friends. So it's great to see familiar faces like yourself and these guys, so it's great to be back.
Jeffrey, it's always a pleasure, and we will definitely see you around, and hopefully in many years to come.
I hope so. That's the plan.